Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, we find a way to win or we find a way to lose. Look, man, Spence and Crawford, this fight, I'll tell you what, after that Twitter eruption the other day, that eruption has created, and I'm going to go ahead and say it this way, because this is what's happened, a pyroclastic flow of interest in the two of them getting in the ring. And that fight, the fight was already big, but it lost a lot of its luster. But this is what they needed. Although I don't agree with it, all the back and forth, it's what was needed to really regain the interest and make the fight even bigger than it was before. Everybody is talking about Spence and Crawford now. I mean, and sometimes you got to make noise. You got to shake trees, you know what I mean? If you want to be seen, you got to make noise. And people like drama, you know. No one likes the quiet, nice guy. Everybody likes drama. They like the shock and awe, and they like to be entertained. And that Twitter eruption we saw between the two of them, it was very entertaining. But right now, Spence and Crawford, my only concern about those guys is one of them may lose because, you know, they're fighting guys who have a chance. Now, Vanessian against Crawford, I mean, let's not take it to the stupid. You know, Crawford should get rid of him, no problem. But the best boxer doesn't win the fight. The boxer who fights the best wins. So anything can happen in boxing. We know that. Okay, so I just don't think Crawford's going to lose to him. Now with Spence, he's supposed to be fighting Thurman. Those first 4 rounds, maybe 5 rounds, everybody should be sweating. Some of you out there who are saying, nah, I'm not sweating nothing. Spence is gonna get in there and he's gonna beat Thurman. Hold your horses. Let's not talk with emotion, man. Y'all gotta give Thurman a chance, 4 or 5 rounds. After that, I just don't know many boxers who can run and avoid the Spence onslaught for the whole 12 rounds. But Keith Thurman, gets on that bicycle, good lateral movement. He stays off the ropes. He counters going backwards. He just does a lot of things great. However, that inactivity, being a married man and all that, I just think that is going to show up. But, the first 4 or 5 rounds, I see that. I think that's Thurman's best chance of winning the fight. But at the end of the day, they should get through those fights, and then we should get Spence and Crawford. Because these guys are probably, there's been a lot of fights in boxing over the years, but this is probably one of the most anticipated boxing matches ever. And right now, it looks like we're in a good space and we're within that window to where it may happen. But the beauty of boxing is that for the talk, it's a whole lot of showmanship. And for all the brashness and arguments that we have and what we've seen with Spence and Crawford, you saw that with Pacquiao and Floyd, Tyson Holyfield, Ali Frazier, De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad, when you have all these guys who are great and want to prove who's the greatest, especially when you're talking about pound for pound in boxing and also just who's the best pound for pound in their weight class, it's easy to settle that. And the way that they can settle that is just by getting in the ring and see who leaves standing on their feet or who ends up getting a win. Although judges sometimes screws that up. But that at the same time is kind of frustrating when you see these fighters who it's like an inability to come together and make a fight. Like what we're kind of seeing, the struggle with Crawford and Spence. But at the end of the day, it looks like they're moving beyond that, and whatever frustrations they had, they were able to discharge those frustrations, via a Twitter beef, basically. And now it seems like they're in a good space, kind of knowing each other's concerns and going forward. And that is a good thing. But right now, this matchup, just like so many matchups in the past, they've gained the interest of the public. And we want to see the fight. We don't want to hear about anything else because you look at what happened with like Mayweather and Pacquiao. I understand how that fight didn't happen. Drug testing, etc., etc. That's something that I got to do a video on about Spence and Crawford. What's going to be the approach to VADA testing? We don't need another obstacle where now somebody. The last thing we need is for someone to fail a damn drug test, but I don't think we'll have that issue with these two. But that's why we didn't get one of the biggest fights in boxing when it was nice and ripe. And then it went on, and yeah, as far as the demand for the fight grew, but the fighters, Mayweather and Pacquiao, I don't want to use the wrong word, but I'm going to go ahead and use a strong word and say they both had deteriorated as far as their ability to perform in the ring. And for those of you who are saying neither one had deteriorated, I'm going to say, man, look at when they first started talking about fighting, and then fast forward to when they actually fought, and look at how they were performing then and how they were performing at the time they fought. It was a deterioration. Yeah, they were still elite, could beat everybody's asses, but as far as how they performed then, not the same. Okay? And what we don't want is to have the same situation here with Crawford and Spence, to where somebody loses or it goes 4 or 5 years down the road, and then we finally get a fight that really, Crawford would be 40. Spence would be damn near 40, that nobody wants to see. So we don't want to get held up with drug testing. We don't want to get held up with pride. We don't want to get held up with other side of the street. We don't want to get held up with somebody just feeling they deserve, like an 80-20 split or 70-30 split, or the location, the venue. Like that's semantics. Like that shouldn't derail the fight. Okay, it's just a matter of these guys coming together, working through those hurdles, man, getting them cleared, and then finally being able to take off within the first 3-4 months of 2023. But both of these guys got to be happy with their potential earnings. In addition to that, there's going to be drug testing. I'm sure they both have to be happy with that. How often they want to have the urinalysis or coming in and drawing their blood. And I think they're going to really have to, which I don't think will be an issue, but set their personal pride aside. And when we talk about both of these guys and their records, man, and being unscathed and just renowned champions that they are, these two guys come together, the right timing within the first quarter of the year, the right location, the right pay-per-view price. What you're going to see is whatever stadium they put it in, seats are going to be maxed to capacity. As far as the tickets, I expect this fight to sell out within the first 48 hours. Okay? And as far as the pay-per-view sales, I'm thinking, 250 to 400,000. Conservative estimate. It could be more, but I'm just saying conservatively. 250 to 400. I know Earl Spence has done great numbers on pay-per-view, but the anticipation right now, I'm thinking these guys may be able to get closer to about, I'm thinking they may get 500,000. But I know safely, I think they'll easily get 250, maybe 500 million. They could get 1 million. Okay? We don't know. But I'm just saying, it's not even what Crawford said about the Fire Stick. We all know that this shit been going on forever. A lot of people who don't have Fire Sticks or who can't get an illegal stream, they go to Facebook. People post the shit on Facebook. If you jump through the 10 or 11 streams that are on there, you may every 5 minutes have to jump from stream to stream because Facebook is killing them. You'll catch 80% of the fight, man. So, it's, if you have the patience, do it. If not, just order the fight. You know what I'm saying? But one thing is for sure, neither one of these guys are scared of the other, man. And that's something that in some of the fights we've seen in the past where there were people talking about, this opponent's scared of that one. But that's not the case. It's not the case at all. I think both of these guys at this point, with everything they've gone through, Earl Spence car accidents, Earl Spence eye injury. People saying Earl Spence has fought nobodies. I don't know how you can come up with that. Terence Crawford, 130, 35, 40, 47. Still not feeling like he's getting the respect, being an undisputed champion at 140, champion at 147. Clip Jeff Horn got that belt. Still out here banging people up, knocking people out. Terence Crawford makes people look simple. The issue with Bob Arum. So, and then coming out now, feeling like he's not getting the respect that he deserves as his own man, his own boss. Okay, now one thing that I want to point out is that when Crawford was asking for like the financial statements and stuff like that, he wasn't asking for them to open up their books on all the fights. No, what he was just doing was asking them to provide proof of the numbers and what they were expecting or what they were projecting if the two of them were to come together. And that's something that I've learned is normal protocol between two promotional factions when trying to plan an event or plan a fight, so they're on the same page. So I think it's kind of getting put a little bit of a different spin on it than what was actually intended. Crawford wasn't at all trying to probe and pry into the books of PBC and Al Heyman. No, he's just like, okay, you're saying that this is what we're looking at, or you're not telling me what we're looking at, but you're saying you kind of have an idea. Well, share that with me, so my team, we can look at that and we can get on the same page. But at the end of the day, man, they're not going to allow that minor disconnect to risk their legacy fight. Like, this is really the legacy fight for these two guys. But they're fighting for respect, man, all right? But when you think all the way back to, like, the 1900s, big fights that happened and that were probably heavily anticipated. You got to think about the Jack Johnson versus Jeffries, you know what I mean? And the whole thing about the racial storyline and all the amp for the fight and everything, man, and the whole Great White Hope thing. That was a big deal because they had to step in the ring and demonstrate. Jack Johnson had to step in the ring and demonstrate, man, his true resiliency, and especially during that era, black and white relations, man, it just did a lot for Jack Johnson and a lot of people, man, for these guys to go slug it out over 15 rounds and for Jack Johnson to come out victorious. Dempsey and Tunney was another one of those anticipated fights, man. We know Tunney rallied to defeat Dempsey and forced him to call it quits. Then he got like the Joe Louis and Smelling. Joe Louis, I'm not going to go into his background. I'm sure we all know, but that was another one of those anticipated fights. Marciano Walcott, Ali Frazier, Ali Foreman, Tyson Lewis, and then the Pacquiao, Mayweather, De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad. And I mentioned those fights because that's where Crawford and Spence align. And they've earned that position. What you don't want to happen is these guys end up not fighting, and we sit here like I watched the video. Roy Jones was sitting there with a bunch of it was Roy Jones, Eubanks Sr., Joe Calzaghe, and a couple other fighters. But during that sit down, you realized that there were some fights that Roy Jones didn't make because guys just couldn't sort things out, and they were talking about it, and it sounded like there was still definitely some tension, but there was some regret. And I think what we're going to see here with these guys, I think they're going to be able to get this off the ground. But if these guys don't fight, man, a lot of people are going to be really, really sour, really pissed off, man, because I do think this fight will live up to the hype, and we're not going to be disappointed like a lot of people were wanting to kill Mayweather and Pacquiao, weren't they? All the money people spent for that fight. These guys, what they sell, like over 4 million pay-per-view buys? Was it 4 million? Crazy. All that money they made. And there wasn't really many fireworks in that fight. People were expecting these two to come together and just really, go at it. And that's not what it was. Floyd made the fight easy. Pacquiao, he made it competitive, but it just wasn't what people were expecting. Now, I'll tell you this. With Spence and Crawford, in my opinion, people are going to get, I think, more than what they're anticipating because of their styles. Crawford is a boxer, but Crawford is mean, man. Crawford is vicious. Crawford's not trying to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee for 12 rounds. Crawford is looking to, if you hit Crawford, he wants to hit you back. You knock him down, which he can say he's never been knocked down, but that damn mean machine, he put a little heat on Crawford. But you saw what happened after that. Like they woke up a beast. Crazy how he came back and just destroyed Mean Machine. But same thing with Spence. You touch Spence, you might as well run the hell out the ring. Spence, Spence gonna put you down faster than a plate of Alabama barbecue. You know what I'm saying? Your ass is going down. Spence will chop you down. And the thing about Spence is, when you watch him fight, that man doesn't get tired. It's crazy to see somebody work like that, and to see somebody achieve that kind of stamina, and his ability to not fatigue over the 12 rounds with that kind of work rate. Very impressive, man. Takes a lot of discipline. And the thing is, Crawford has that kind of discipline and stamina too, but his work rate isn't like Spence's. He's very selective, very precision. He uses his eyes. And I think that's going to be the difference in this fight, is Crawford's ability to use his eyes. And what I mean by that is he sees everything. Crawford counters you off of his front foot. So, I mean, he's front foot heavy and slipping your punches and getting his shots off. Most of the time, you see people who are on their back foot and countering. You throw, they slip. You throw, they dip. You throw, they parry, counter, go over your backhand. But when you got a guy on the front foot coming forward and slipping and countering and doing that, that makes it that makes it frustrating and hard to beat. Usyk does it. Lomachenko does it. Crawford does it. And it's just hard to achieve that kind of IQ and awareness when you're boxing. Now with Spence, we all know what Spence's strength is. The fact that this man doesn't get tired. He comes at you behind that jab. He's throwing that backhand left up and down. But once Spence closes the distance, pay attention, right? Watch his elbows. And I'm not saying he's a dirty fighter. No, what I'm telling you is he pins, once he closes that distance, and he pins opponents against the rope with his elbows. He has you here, and he's working with the free hand. Or he's leaning into you with the other elbow. And when he pins you like that, it almost freezes him. And he works with the other hand. And it's hard for those guys to, move laterally and get out there off the ropes. And for Terence Crawford, that's going to be dangerous to a certain point, but also going to be dangerous for Spence. Because Crawford will find a hole in your defense, man, and expose your ass. So it's really one of those things where, like I said in a lot of videos before, Crawford and Spence is a 50-50 fight. The way I see these guys is they're both the number ones at 147, and the winner of this will get the undisputed distinction, and they'll become the undisputed. The loser will still be number one. I don't see this as a number one and number two. I can't do that, right? They're both the number ones. But whoever wins go on to become undisputed, and then under that, you got number one, and then, whoever you want to put 2, 3, 4, and 5, all right? But that's how I see it. So Spence and Crawford, I'm glad these guys got all the information out there, put the business out in the street. Don't like the way they went about it, but it is what it is. And I am very excited about these guys fighting, man. And also one fight I didn't want to forget about, man, is that Holyfield Mike Tyson was another one of those fights. Tyson went to jail, whatever, man, came back. Supposed to fight before he went to jail, came back, he ended up finally getting in the ring. Mike Tyson wasn't in his prime anymore, but he was still a threat, but Holyfield showed what he was made of. Oscar De La Hoya and Floyd Mayweather was another one of those fights. That's the fight that actually made Mayweather, made him who he is. De La Hoya Pacquiao, that's the fight that made Pacquiao kind of who he is. He got in there with De La Hoya. De La Hoya, we all know he was dehydrated. It doesn't matter. He's chasing that money. Got in there with that damn Filipino typhoon, man, and he got his ass tore out the frame. So it is what it is. But that being said, man, looking forward to the fight. The fight's bigger than ever. Let's just hope that, because they should be fighting within a couple weeks of each other. Crawford's fighting in December. Spence supposed to be fighting in December. And then after that, a couple months of rest, training. Them guys should be fighting before the summer of next year. And that is what we want to see and what we want to hear. So more to come on those guys. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, donate, man, if you want to support the channel. I'll appreciate it. Shout out to all 7 continents. Shout out to the veterans. Y'all keep safe. I appreciate the support. And as always, I'm in the breeze.